Welcome back. In this tutorial we're going to look at the water in a bit more detail. So we're going to look at how we can generate our own water and not just use the prefab. We're also going to look at colliders and start getting into some scripts, so getting the player so that if they jump off the edge of the map and they land in the water, then they respawn back to the start position, just like if they drowned in the water and they need to get reset back to the start location. So same, we leave off in the exact same place from the last video. So we've still got our character controls, we still got our terrain, got a direct light, and we got our ocean. Now our ocean was the prefab inbuilt one that came with our water. So let me just find it, low poly water here, and it was the one that came with it. But what if that's not the right size? What if that's too small, too big? In this case it's great, but we might just want to change that up a bit. So I'm just going to delete it now. So I'm just going to select on it in the hierarchy and hit the delete key, and bang, it's disappeared. So we're going to go up to game objects up the top here, and we're going to re-import a new version. So we're going to go down here, and if you've installed the package, it should come up with this option to go down to low poly water and generate water plane. Alright, it's going to pop up with this little message box, just popped up on my other screen, and now we can actually get this generate this object from scratch. So we'll give it a name like water. We can give it segments. So the segments is the actual wave segments. So if we want lots of wave segments, not many wave segments, this is up to you how you set this one up. I'm going to go 50 by 50, and plane width and plane height, so length and width, and we're going to go, I'm going to go 500 by 500. So if my plane width is 50 and my segments in width, my segments is 50 and my plane width is 500, that's 10 units of measurement per segment. I'm also going to add a collider on it this time because we're going to use that later on. So you can either add a collider to your old water plane, or just go ahead and generate a new one. Hit create, creates a new plane, and it's just popped it up there. So let's have a look now and see, is this plane big enough? And look at that, I've actually not generated a big enough plane for my terrain. So that's a little bit annoying, but that's okay. I could go back in and edit that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it like that. It actually does just cover my whole terrain. Just remember, you got your GUI up here so you can look from the top view, side view, back view, all those sorts of views. And we're just going to line it up so that we got probably a bit more of the water at the back there. Yeah, probably do need a bigger plane of water there, but that's good enough. And you can see here on the right hand side, you've got the same controls and setup and everything like that, and you've now got a box collider on it as well, so that will come in handy later on. Alright, so let's just go back to our player. So just going to go back to our player and hit F, zooms in on our player. So now if I run the game now, we have our character down the bottom here in the bottom screen, and look around, and if I just run to the edge, just remember you can hold WASD shift, I land on my water, which is a good thing, but also want to be able to drown, so it's not the greatest thing at the moment. Just remember, we can wall jump out because we haven't done anything about that just at the moment yet. So our water plane's working now. Just remember, you hit escape to get out of mouse lock view and pop out of that. So that's our water plane in, and it's got a collider on it now, which is what we're going to use to manipulate this. So in our water, we're just going to set up a couple of things. When we want to collide with the water, it automatically does that. We've got a collider on our character, and we've got a collider now on our water, which is this box collider. Now it just natively does that through the physics engine, does the collision for us, but we now want to do something with that collision. We want it so when we hit this plane, bang, we respawn. And we're going to use that by tagging the object as, give it a special tag that says we know which object we've hit. And we're going to go up to our tags here. So in this Spectre view, we've clicked on our water, and over here in the tag section, we're going to select, there's some prefabricated tags you can use, and we're going to use the respawn one. We're just going to set this one to respawn. So now when we get into some coding, we can use this tag, and that will allow us to identify that it's the plane of water that we've hit, and that we can do something once when we hit any object that has the respawn tag attached to it. Okay, so we now need to get some scripts and do some coding to allow us to respawn. So we're going to go click on our character, and that character at the moment has a couple of scripts on it already. Well, one major script, which is the first person controller script. And this script, as you can see, has a whole bunch of variables about how fast you walk, how fast you run, jumping speeds, all sorts of different things. Head bobbing, which you can turn off if you want to, which is great because it's a bit annoying. It's got the footstep sounds already built into it. But we want to now edit this script. So where is this script located? So if we go to our assets, in our assets we've got in our list, and let's just close some of these tabs. We've got this is our top level, up below assets, and we've got standard assets. We open that one up. Then we've got in here, we've got characters, and then in here we've got our first person character, which is one we're using, and in here we've got 3 folders. Our prefab was where we found our character, and then scripts is where we find our scripts. And there's our first person script in here. Now we can go ahead and open that up. So if you hit the open button, it'll open up in either MonoDevelop or Visual Studio Community or whatever you've downloaded as your part of your Unity. Unity usually comes with MonoDevelop, but I prefer to use Microsoft Studio Community, and it'll come up something like this, and you'll see your project window on the side here with some of your assets and different things, and you can see that it's the C# folder come up. You can actually see it there, and a few other things. If you don't have certain things enabled, you won't be able to see these things, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. As long as we can edit the code, that's great. Sometimes you have to, there's other ways of opening it up to, you can go to the file location actually on your computer and open it up, but hopefully everything can just run through Unity. So this is our script here, and at the moment there's a whole heap of stuff in it. It's huge. It's got 260 lines of code, but we only care about a few little things. So we're only going to care about this top section here, these variables. So we've got a whole bunch of different variables here, and we're going to look at also, if you scroll down all the way to on collide hit at line 243, if that roughly around that number, you'll have this on collide hit, and that's where we're going to play around too. So first things first, go straight back up to the top. In here, around line 30, so just underneath all the serialized fields, we're going to put in some new variables. So serialized fields, you're probably wondering what they are. So these serialized variables are private, which is good. They're only allocated to this object and can't be accessed by other objects, which is a good thing. But they do show up in Unity as an option that you can change and edit. As you can see here, you got their private and then the type they are. So booleans are true or false. You got floats, which are floating point numbers, so like 3.141592653. That's like pi. You can have an integer. I don't think there are any integers here at the moment, but we're going to be adding one in a minute later on for some lives, and that would just be like a number 378 with no decimal point at the end of it. You've got some audio variables, so that's for your audio clips, for your landing, your jumping, your footsteps. And then we've got some more complicated things that are part of Unity for head bobbing and curves and some are more complicated stuff. We've got mouse look, which involves the mouse, but it's its own variable on its own. We're not going to play around with those too much, and we're not going to actually delete anything. We're just going to be adding things in. So we're going to add new serialized field. So on line 30, we're just going to add a new serialized field. And make sure you do spell everything correctly. If you don't, then guess what? It's going to crash. And look, I already made one mistake, and that's okay. If you make mistakes, that's okay. Make sure it's square brackets and private. Whoop, private, because we don't want other scripts to be able to access this information. And we're going to put this one as lives. You can have a capital L if you like. I'm going to put capital L because it just makes it look nice, but you don't have to. Actually, let's leave it as a lowercase l. And equals 3. So I'm going to give myself 3 lives at the start. And oh, still coming up with an error because we didn't put a type in. What type are we going to have? Lives. Well, you're only going to have whole numbers for lives, so we're going to put it as an integer. Alright, so make sure, and you can see that red line came up underneath our code. That's great. Tells us that we've got a mistake, and well, it hasn't. It won't run. Also, on the left-hand side here, you can see it's come up yellow. That just means it's unsaved. So if we hit Control S, it goes green. We know we've saved it. That's a really important thing. Make sure you save your code before you try and run it, because otherwise it won't work. Second variable we're going to put in, and we're going to just put it in under this one because it's going to be similar to this one. And we're gonna go private vector, because I like keeping things that are similar together. Vector 3, and we're gonna go m underscore. I should probably put an m on that one. Let's go put an m on that one, just so that we know it's related to this file. And we're gonna go start underscore point. Boy, I'm having a bad day on the spelling today. And we're going to make this equal to a vector 3.0. So that just sets it up. And what is a vector 3? So vector 3 is your x, y, and z axes. And it's just a variable that can store all three. So it's great for 3D positioning, and that's what we're going to need for where our start position is. We're going to need an x, y, and a z positioning for our character. And we're going to set it to 0, so it's just setting all three to 0, 0, 0. That's just the initial setup. So we've added in our lives, and we've added in our start point. I'm just going to save that, make sure that goes green. Alright, so now we're going to scroll a fair way down to here. And in here, this is where collisions occur. So on collider, controller collider hit. And the controller collider is what the character uses. And it's a little bit different from just a standard box or capsule or cylinder or whatever you're using for colliding with. It's a little bit more complicated, and it has a little bit more functionality in the background with velocities and things like that, and making a character actually work. So this is where we're going to be editing the code to add in our collision with our ground plane. So we're going to leave the first line alone, and that just explains what the rigid body of the character is doing. So that's the physical side of things, and we don't want to change that. We just leave that alone. But we're going to put a couple of spaces in between that green text, which is a comment text, and we're going to put in a new if statement. So we go if, and we open circle brackets. It's actually already given us the closing circle bracket, so we don't have to fill that one out. And we're going to go hit. And what is hit? Hit, it is the object that we're colliding with. So we've got the player, then we've got the object that we collide with. And we want to know what's happening with what object is the one we're colliding with. So we're going to go hit dot game object. And note that I put the capital O, and as you can see, it's coming up with a Q in to say this is the right way to spell it. So it's almost giving me the answer to make sure I've got it right. And we're going to go dot tag. And then once we've done that, we're going to go equals 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 equals. And now what do we need it to be equal to? Let's go back to our project. What was the tag we gave our water? Now, it might take a little bit of a second for it to update. There was a little spinning wheel down in the bottom right hand corner that was updating, and as you can see, it's now got these messages coming up down the bottom here. That's all good. That's fine. Now, let's look at our water. Click on our water, and don't click on it again because it'll rename it. But our tag was respawn, so that's what we want to put in. That's what we want to put in. So let's go back to our code, and we're going to put in quotation marks respawn, because that's the tag we want to check it against. And I opened the squiggly brackets. I like to call them squiggly brackets. They got a name, but it doesn't matter. And then we're going to just put a nice basic little log message in here. So debug .log open bracket, and we're going to put a message in here and say hit water, as you can see, and we need a semicolon at the end. So when we hit this plane, it's going to give us a dialog log message back that said hit water each time we hit it. So that's our first little if statement we're going to write. So if the game object hits, that's what we've already got. That's when this function is called. And we're going to check what the hit object's tag is. If it's equals to it or equivalent, that's really what it's saying. Is it equivalent to it? It's not making it equal to it. If we only had one equal sign, that would mean make this equal to that. That's not what we want. We want equivalent, so are the two the same? If they are the same, we want to get our log message back. So go ahead and save that. Just make sure it goes up green, and go back to your Unity project. As you can see, it does a little spinning wheel, and once that goes away, we can just check. Now, as you can see, you've got a little yellow thing down here. If you click on it, it'll come up with this message box. Got a whole bunch of warning messages here. I'm not too worried about that in this project at the moment. When you're doing it later on, you might want to get rid of these warning messages just to make sure there's no potential for any errors. But the good thing is, as you can see, you can turn them off if you want to. You just click on the yellow triangle there to get rid of warning messages. But the one next to it that says 0, that looks like a little stop sign, they come up red, and that means there is an error. The code will not run, the program won't run until you fix those errors. So we don't have any of those errors, so we're going to go ahead and run this code. I'm going to just close that box. We're going to run this code and see what happens. Alright, we've got our player. We're going to walk around, go over to the edge here, jump off the edge, and ooh, let's have a look what happened. Down the bottom here, so if you hit escape, you can get your mouse back. We've got a little message come up, and we're hitting our water constantly. We're constantly landing on our water and hitting it every second or every frame. Looks like it's every frame because we've already got 900 of these messages, 900 plus of these messages, and it's saying we've detected that we've hit the water plane, which is excellent. That's what we want. So now in that if statement, we can write something that says return it to the start point. Alright, and that's what we're going to do now. Just stop that one. Okay, so now we need to get it so it respawns back into its location. So we're just going to click off this console. We don't need that up anymore. Just click down here again. Just make sure clear on play is on. So when you hit the play button, it clears all your messages so you don't have thousands of messages coming up. You can also hit clear manually yourself, just to let you know. But that's a good one to know so that you don't get thousands of messages all the time. Alright, just close that one. So we're going to go back into our character control, and we're going to pop back in and grab our first person controller script, and now we're going to do some more coding to get our player to respawn. So we're going to go right back up to the top. Do you remember this variable we set that said m start point? We set it to 0, 0, 0, but that's not where our character actually is sitting. Where is our character sitting? In Unity, our character is currently sitting at 148.35 blah blah blah. I'm not going to say that all out loud. but that's where our character is sitting currently, and that's where we want them to respawn back to each and every single time. So we need to do something. You need to write that into this program. So at the moment, our start point is at 000. We want to set that to wherever our character starts from when we load up the game. So we're going to add in a little bit of code in our start function. This is our start function. This is what happens when the game runs. It only runs it once at the beginning of the game, and then doesn't run this code again. So this is a perfect spot to set up some variables and set their locations and positions. And that's what all these little bits in here are, just setting up all our variables with specific information. And that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to go m underscore what was it, start point equals, and we're going to set it equal to the current location. So it's this dot game object dot transform dot position and column. What that's going to do is going to grab the current location and positioning of our character and set it to our respawn variable here, which is our start point. We want that to always be our start point, no matter whenever we respawn. So that's our first step. And Control S, save that. Now we're going to go back down to our collide inside our if statement, because we know this log is when we hit the water. And now we're going to put some code in here, and that code is going to relate to getting the character to teleport back to that start position. Okay, so what we're going to be putting in is at the moment the character gets controlled by the character controller. So we're going to turn the character controller off for a minute and then turn it back on. So we're going to go m underscore character controller, and it should come up in our list of variables. That's the one we want. And m.characterController.enable, and then again, yes, there it is. We want it enabled, and enabled is either true or false. It's either on or off. So we're going to go equals false. So that turns our character controller off for a second. Now we can move its position. So we're going to go m underscore character controller. We could type it out, or we could just let it autofill. And we're going to transform autofill position autofill equal to. Now what are we making it equal to? Our start point. So m underscore start point, and there it's already autofilling it for us. That's going to reset our position. Bang. And now we need to turn our character controller back on, otherwise guess what's going to happen? You guessed it. We won't be able to move our character. So m underscore character controller dot enabled, not enable, enabled, just make sure, and we're going to set that to true. So we're going to turn that back on. Alright, so let's see what happens. Control S and go back to our Unity project. Let that update again, spinning wheel down the bottom right hand corner. Once that's done, yet again, we just check. We've got 16 warning messages, but we don't have any red error messages, so that's good. We're going to run our code. And now let's go walk over to our edge. Run over to our edge. We're going to jump off. When we hit, bang. Alright, what happened? So we got a message down the bottom saying we hit the water. What also happened at the same time was we teleported back to our start position. Now our rotation has stayed the same because we didn't change our rotation. We didn't set it back to 000, and we didn't set our velocity or anything like that back. So we were still sort of traveling a little bit in the velocity we were going. We could reset them as well, but I think this video has been long enough, so I'm going to leave that one alone. So make sure once you've done that, just check your code. It's all saved. It should be saved because we were able to run the code. So it's all green bars, nothing yellow. No, it's all green. It's all green. That's good. Go back to our Unity project, and at the moment you can see a little start symbol next to our level 1. So if we hit Control S, that disappears because we just saved the project, and that was the scene saving, not really the project. It's the same as going File, Save Scene. So that's it for this video. We got our water in, just a bit more customization on the water. We were able to add the collider to it, which was good. We set the water having a tag on it called respawn, and then we played with our character to get our character to have collision with that plane and to respawn at that location. Alright, in the next video we might look at lives, and then we might start even looking at getting in another game object that we can collect, so like a coin or something like that, so we can have some objects that we need to collect in our game. That's it for now.